Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our usual Monday night roundup, looking back at all of the weekend's action. I'm Chris Bell. Delighted to say I'm joined by Gareth Walker, by Dave Foy, and by Stephen Downs. Possibly a little bit later, we might possibly have Jayson Boocker with us to talk about Leeds and their exit in the FA Cup semi-finals. He's yet to get back to me. How are we, though, gents? Those of us that are here, how are we all doing? Well?
Yeah.
Good, man.
Oh, good.
How are you, Chris?
Football can absolutely get in the bin. Apart from that, I'm okay. Still just it was a strange Saturday, to say the least, with commentating from a Rochdale perspective on Rochdale versus York at lunchtime, and then Lincoln winning well thereafter and doing the League One trophy lift. So. A mixed set of emotions, I think it's fair to say, on Saturday.
I've just realised, boys.
We should probably discuss that, shouldn't we?
We will.
You don't have to. Go on, Downsy. What have you just realised before we do go on?
Yeah, not to put the pod off, but I've got my headset in and not plugged my headset into the laptop, so I'm just going to do that now.
There we go. The common sense of the West Yorkshire Football Show, right there. Go on then, gals. Let's discuss the potentially the most mental and most watched game of non-league football the world has ever seen. And that's what it felt like, at least on Saturday.
It feels like one of them. That anyone that's got any interest in football will remember where they were when they saw that happen, or when they heard what had happened there. So I was actually in an Uber on my way from the pub to the City Ground to Valley Parade. And I got the notification through that Rochdale had scored, and we were like, bloody hell, And then another one came through to say that York had scored. But what was it like to commentate on, Chris? How do you commentate on something like
that? I think with great difficulty. Is the simple answer. I mean, yeah, it was one of those. It was nervous. It was as tense as you expect. It was actually, I thought, overall a pretty good game. First half was quite cagey, as you would expect it to be. Second half, I think Dale gradually kind of got more and more attacking, made more attacking changes. By the time the 85th minute came around, you're looking at like a back three and kind of one holding mid, and everybody else is either a winger or an attacker to try and get bodies forward. And then the goal is scored, and you're like, holy shit, like, what is going on? I think in commentary, I've listened back to it, my voice completely goes. I genuinely shed a tear when that goal went in. My voice goes completely. I struggled to catch my breath, and I was on co-commentate. I wasn't even the lead commentator on that either, to be fair. Martin was, and I'm bloody glad of it as well from the aftermath of it. Just the highest of highs from a commentary perspective, followed very, very swiftly by, the rest that kind of panned out with the delay with the bloody fans on the pitch for the Rochdale goal, then the restart, then the York goal, which at first we all thought hadn't crossed the line. With contention on that, then the York fans had their turn to kind of run on the pitch and do a pitch invasion. And I've worked it out. I keep beating myself up somewhat, but I worked it out earlier that by my reckoning, from the restart after the York goal, there should still have been about 3 to 4 minutes of time to be played officially. But instead, with the Rochdale restart after 1-1, everyone charges forward all bar one. The ball gets played backwards and punted forward. He blows the whistle after about 12 seconds. I'm like, hang on, you dick. You missed about 3 minutes of time there for all the delays, because you're talking like 5.5 minutes for the Rochdale pitch invasion, 3 of which were played before York scored. There was then 3 minutes when the York fans were on the pitch before they were all cleared off, and the restart happened again. So, and look, I appreciate that is absolutely me clutching at straws, thinking that Rochdale might score a second. We probably wouldn't. But yeah, that didn't add up. And I'm just, I've spent the entire weekend just resenting the fans that tear us under the pitch when Manchester City scored, because the reality of the situation for me is that when Rochdale scored, there was 62 seconds of added time left. If Rochdale celebrate that properly, with no fans on the pitch, no need to add a great deal of extra added time on, They get back into the position. York was shell shocked. Like I heard Josh Stones on TalkSport this morning saying that when that goal went in, like he thought they were done. They were done and gone. And it was only the fact that there was then the pitch inspection, pitch invasion, and so much of a delay. Like Stuart Maynard during that delay was obviously had his players over. They were getting regrouped. They were going through like how they were going to just throw everyone forward. But that time just allowed York to regroup from being absolutely shell shocked to just having that change. They're able to shake off that mentality of, well, we're done here very, very quickly because several hundred knobheads couldn't stay off the bloody pitch.
Just, you see, yeah, I was trying to work out when I was watching it whether the right amount of time had been played in a similar way to what you've just described, because obviously when Rochdale scored, you could see how long was left on the clock. And then I was trying to work it all out for how much time needed to be added on. And what you're saying is that there should have been some more time added on after York had equalised.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't say, I listened back off our commentary earlier. And between Disarray scoring and the referee restarting with York kicking off was just shy of 6 minutes, I think, like 5 minutes, 45 seconds or something like that. 3 minutes or so into that, after the restart, York then scored. So there should still have been a couple of minutes to go from the first stoppage. Plus the York fans then piled onto the pitch, which is another 3 minutes to kind of clear back off and get into it again. So it should have been at least like another 4 or 5 minutes potentially. As I say, I know it just sounds like I'm being bitter on that front. My main frustration, I'm at peace with the goal. The goal went over, like, having seen different angles since Saturday lunchtime, it goes in. Yeah, my frustration is, my frustration is less so even with necessarily that time wasn't added on at the end that it should have been. It was more just the fact that if that pitch invasion when Manny Disarray scores is avoided, I'm convinced that Rochdale here is a League Two side. Without a doubt, because there wouldn't have been that time for York to regroup. There would have been about 60 seconds or so of left, plus 30 seconds for the goal, which the ref would have had to have added on. But I just don't see Dale capitulating or letting them back in, rather, the way that they ended up doing so.
The thing is that, like, you can say that, and you are right in what you're saying, but I don't think there's any world in which any team supporters don't invade the pitch in that scenario. I mean, I think back to City, obviously, at the 90+6 at Southwich last season, and it kind of like made me think how I would have felt had Fleetwood gone and equalised after that. And
when that happened,
and obviously it's slightly different because York obviously were needed to score because they were up at the top of the league as well. They needed to win, whereas obviously Fleetwood didn't. But it does kind of have similarities with that pitch. And I just don't think there's any world where no one would. When people, I mean, I don't like pitch invasions. I don't, but they happen, and I don't think there's any world where that wouldn't happen.
I don't mind a pitch invasion after full time. After the game is done, like whatever, after the game is played out or whatever, I don't mind, especially if, in this case, if we're doing a celebratory one or whatever. Fair enough. In fact, it would have been brilliant scenes. But I said in commentary, after I kind of got my voice and breath back, whilst they were still clearing people off the pitch. I mean, Christ, I was sat about 2.5, 3 minutes into people like still trying to clear the pitch. And there was still the odd knobhead that was getting on the pitch at that point. Yeah. And that was 3 minutes or so after the goal. But I said in commentary, I said it in co-coms, I was like, if this is going to be added on, if we shoot ourselves in the foot here because of this pitch invasion, like we'll not forgive ourselves. And lo and behold, I should have put the lottery numbers on Saturday night with my predictions, like in that moment, like. So yeah, it is what it is. It's as I say, I'll be honest, I'm still not over it. It's still very, very sore, and yeah.
Is it? Obviously, it's not on the same level as like Man City winning the Premier League. Obviously,
you know what? I think it's bigger.
But for the pure-hearted football fan that knows what it means to get out of the National League into the Football League, for all the monetary value that it adds, all the prestige it adds. The fact of the matter is that York or Rochdale would probably have a chance of getting promoted out of League Two into League One, which goes on to better finances. You know, is it a bigger thing?
Well, I mean, you'll remember, Gaz, I suspect. Was it 89? Liverpool, was it Liverpool Arsenal on that final day when Arsenal,
Michael Thomas?
Yeah, it's up for grabs now. Yeah,
that was the last time I think there was a title in this country that was decided on a single match.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen I was on press box duty before the game, like making sure people were sat in the right seats. And this like seating plan that I had is full of the great and the good from the written sporting press, from like the Observer, the Eye, the Times, the Athletic, all had reporters in the press box at Scotland. BBC 5 Live were there, BBC Manchester were there, BBC York were there, TalkSport were there. It was staggering, absolutely staggering, the media attention on this. Like the fact that the French sporting paper, L'Equipe, had done an article in the build-up to it and had put in a media request, I think, to want to come to the game is just insane. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Like, they've had some, like, I was talking to somebody who's worked at the club for a long time, and they're like, we've had big games before against, your Newcastles, your Spurs in the FA Cup in recent years. But this is the biggest game, like, in terms of an outcome. Like, a cup run is one thing, but to win a title, bear in mind that, again, for Rochdale, they've never won anything. They've never won a trophy before. It was massive. And I genuinely think that certainly with the media attention, the build-up and afterwards, it's bigger than the Man City thing. Because even though when Man City won the league, it wasn't that head-to-head intensity of beating Swindon the title that way, was it? Like, United finished first, and we're waiting, but it was just staggering.
That's the argument I have when obviously I remember Arsenal, Liverpool, and I always say that was bigger than the City game because they were playing each other. That's why it was. That's why it was bigger.
Winner takes all.
Yeah, and obviously in the way you've described exactly what it was like, and you say now you're convinced that it did cross the line, because I was very much like wanting to see every angle, because the first angle I saw I didn't think it did. The second angle I saw I thought it did. Are we now happy that it did? You say?
Yeah, like I obviously kind of after the game and after like taking the time and kind of regrouped, we went down to the press room and stuff, and there were kind of other people with other angles that weren't on the DAZN broadcast that kind of show it across. And actually, I think it was the third angle that DAZN did have that they aired, where admittedly the ball is behind probably 3 or 4 bodies, but you can kind of see that it goes over. Even though there's kind of some bodies in the way, it clearly infers that it's over. And to be fair, like, I did see one actually. I saw an angle as well that I think a York fan had taken from the stand. It was as far to the right-hand side as he could have been, sort of thing. And again, it shows, I mean, that York fans want that linesman knighting, put it that way. But I think actually, you know what? He probably did make the right call. It's just the absolute most heartbreaking way to finish a game.
Question now is how do Rochdale get themselves up for that for the playoffs?
Well, yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, have you spoken to Jim McNulty, Chris? What's he like? As Downsy says, how did they get themselves up for it? What's he said?
So his post, I haven't. Well, it's typical actually. I waited around in the media room because he can take a while, can Jim, to come out. He does love a good debrief with his backroom staff after a game. And unsurprisingly, it took a lot longer than normal. In fact, I watched, and again, this kind of shows a lot of how big this game was. Sunday supplement on Sky Sports on a Sunday morning. They spent the last 10 minutes of the show talking about it. One of the articles said that McNulty had snubbed the media. Technically, he didn't. He just texted that long that I think they'd all buggered off and gone home well before he actually bothered to come out. His post-match interview was surprisingly positive and surprisingly upbeat for a man that's just been beaten in the 103rd minute of a football match.
I know how that goes, by the way. I just want to put my hand up there. I know how that goes.
No, not at the end of a title deciding game, it hasn't, but
excuse me, blocked our path to the playoffs, thank you very much.
Yeah, come back when it's a literal title decider. And yeah, it's I know you can kind of, it's easy for players to put on social media, you know, oh, we go again, we'll regroup, etc. But I do have a strong belief in this squad, having kind of been with them all over the country, up and down the country over the season, that they can use this as fuel. I mean, statistics aren't in our favour. Only 6 out of 20, but I think 6 of the last 23 sets of playoffs, the side that's finished second has gone up.
Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't happen often that the team that gets picked to it goes up. I mean, I did see Jim McNulty very briefly. So I waited around in the press room for ages when he was going to do his interview. I popped out to go for a slash. I came back and the door was shut and he was in there doing his interview. And when he came out, he saw me. And usually we have a bit of a natter, but he just looked at me, was like, on to the next moment. That was all he said and walked off. I think he's very firmly focused on, like, he'll know how much everyone's hurting off the back of that. But it's just all about the preparation now. Obviously, it's Scunthorpe versus Southend tomorrow night. That's on the zone, and the winner of that will be at Scotland for the 4 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. And yeah, look, we come into it a stage further than we did last year when we lost to Southend in the Eliminator. So 90 minutes from Wembley and see what happens, I guess. But I get the feeling that there is and to be fair, that feeling has been there all season, that there is a genuine belief within this squad that they will fight for each other. And they showed that on Saturday, to be fair, that they will fight for each other and they will. Yeah, there's a strong mentality in that squad. So I'm just hoping and praying that we can get the job done on Sunday. And look, they always say that the best way of going up is at Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to give a shout out. A family friend of mine called Len, he's Len and Jean, the Rochdale born and bred, and Len has watched Rochdale since about 1952 or something daft like that. So basically since he was a kid, and yeah, he was going to the game. I saw him on the Friday, and he was really excited for the game. And you know, he thought, to be fair to him, he thought that Rochdale had already blown the chance of going up because of the last 5 fixtures, but. He was really excited for the game, so I can only imagine his heartache at the end when that goal for York went in, to be honest. But just on Scunny, obviously, you know.
Well, I was about to ask because you've got friends of a Scunthorpe stadium as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, obviously for them, you know, I know we're sort of debriefing from West Yorkshire football here, but I don't think they expected to be in the playoffs. Let's be honest. They started the season with we're just happy to be, you know, risen from the ashes of whatever happened at Scunny over the last 2-3 years. So I think for them, they were kind of like, yeah, it'd be nice to tickle the playoffs, but I think everybody's probably thinking that they've done better than expected, to be absolutely honest.
It's typical. The 2 teams that I didn't want to face in the playoffs were Scunthorpe and Southend.
And Scunny have got a decent playoff sort of history, really, I think.
Overall, it's not bad. But, I mean, my reason simply was the fact that, like, Carlisle that finished 3rd, Rochdale did the double over them home and away. Boreham Wood that finished 4th, Rochdale did the double over them home and away. And Forest Green, Rochdale did the double home and away. With Scunthorpe, it was 2 draws, 1 all at home and 2-2 away. And with Southend, it was a 2-1 win at home and a 3-2 defeat away. So they were the ones that have given us the most problems out of the other sides, apart from York, in the top 7. So I was quite keen to try and avoid them. As I said to somebody, I'd have given my left nut to have been playing either Boreham Wood or Forest Green. It is what it is.
All I'm saying is that, luckily enough, due to circumstances of my friendship, I'm able to play on the Scunthorpe United pitch on Friday. So, with Jayson Boocker, who's not here. So the real talent that's playing at Glanford is on Friday, actually. Unfortunately, spectators are not allowed in, so nobody will be able to see the real talent happening. But there we are.
Are you going to take a penalty? I hope so.
I did. So we've taken a penalty. I've done it twice before. taken a penalty, done a penalty each time. I hit the crossbar in the first year that we did it, and I scored last year. So, yeah.
Fair play.
I've actually scored at both ends of that ground, by the way. Just putting it out there. I am as prolific, as Kevin Keegan was back in his Scunthorpe United days. I've scored an own goal at one end, and I've scored a penalty at the other end.
There we go. I mean,
Before we move on from Rochdale, Chris, a question from Ian. Can we see what your opinion is on that? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to bring it up. Yeah, regarding Ryan East and Tyler Smith. Ryan East has been absolutely massive, to be fair. Absolutely massive signing since he joined, actually. So I think he was initially on, if I'm right in thinking, Gaz, he was initially on loan.
Yeah, he had him on loan before he signed him perm, yeah.
He signed permanently just before Christmas. Oh, Christ, now, was that last year or the year before? I can't remember now, but...
24, I think.
Yes, I think he's been with us, including that loan spell, for about 2.5 years now. And he has been absolutely instrumental. He hasn't missed... he's barely missed a game, to be fair. It's been him and Harvey Gilmore for the two centre mids ever since. And you lose either of them, and you kind of... It shows, even as good as the likes of Casey Petit and Ed Brantis are, you lose Eastie or Gilmore, and it shows. So he's been a hell of a signing, to be fair. Like, Dale fans have always been like, how the hell was he not getting game time at Bradford? As for Tyler Smith, he's not done too badly, to be fair. He's had a couple of injury issues, a couple of little knocks. I think he's on 5 or 6 goals so far. Because he joined, was it just before January of this season? So he's only been with them for about 6 months or so. I say he's been out with 1 or 2 short spells with knocks, but I think he's got himself on around the half a dozen goals mark. I think since he's come in, he's just more of a regular, either off the bench, with an occasional start in one of the 2 number 10 roles behind Manny Saruve, to be fair. But he's doing okay. Look, if he. I'll change that completely and tell him he's an absolute legend if he pops up with a goal on Sunday night or Sunday evening that can get Rochdale to Wembley, put it that way.
Great stuff.
Ian also making the point, potential Yorkshire derby as well, York and Harrogate. Yes, because of course Harrogate have got a lot to do at the weekend for the final day of the season. And Leeds too.
Yeah,
so,
Barrow are down, aren't they? Barrow are pretty much gone.
Pretty much down, yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, but Harrogate still got something to play for.
I mean, look, I'll be honest. If best case scenario from Rochdale perspective, and the fact that obviously be covering them next season if they were to go up, I would have willingly sacrificed Newport and Crawley to have kept Barrow in the league, just from a pure logistical position of travelling around the country. It's a lot easier to get to Barrow than it is to get to Newport or Crawley, for example.
Chris, massive question, right? That goal doesn't go in for York and Rochdale promoted, but Lincoln miss out on the title.
We'd already won the title, mate. It's
which you having though? Which you having? If it was closer, in League One, which are you having?
This is an absolute nonsense question that I don't have to partake in. So we'll move on.
I think I asked Chris this question before anything was sewn up. Would he rather Lincoln win the league or Rochdale? I think I asked you that. I can't remember if I asked you on air or.
And did he answer it?
I don't think it was on air. I don't think.
Did he answer it, or did he back out like he just have?
He might have done. To be honest, I can't remember. I'm that involved in football now. I just live it day to day, so I don't know.
It's just a weird question. That's all.
Chris bottled that question like Rochdale bottled it on Saturday.
We can carry on with the show. I suppose I better have bringing back. We'll carry on with the rest of the non-league scene. Dave, of course, Halifax, last game of the season on Saturday. It might have gone slightly under the radar given the other talking points from the National League at the weekend, but Town ending on a win.
Yeah, going under the radar. Obviously, National League wide, yes. Halifax Town perspective, no. 20th win of the season, which is what Adam Lakeland targeted. We also hit 70 points. Adam Lakeland sort of reminding press that in seasons gone by, that would have been enough to get into the playoffs, 70 points. Obviously, we've had a freak season that we've just been touching upon with York and Rochdale both on over 100. Don't forget, Carlisle got, 94, 95 themselves. I believe Boreham Wood got something in the mid to late 80s. You're talking a high points total into those playoffs.
There we go, mate.
Well, yeah, Boreham Wood 90, yeah. So in another season, 70 probably would have been enough to get into the top 7. But I said it on the show last week. We've had a good year. As you can see, 20 wins. We've scored more goals this season. But one stat that does stick out is we've scored 20 home goals more than we did last season. But we've only accumulated 4 more points at home for those 20 goals. I mean, we had an embarrassing home scoring record last season. We only scored 22 in 23 league games. But yeah, this season I think we can definitely count as a success. I'll use the Downsy reference from earlier. We very much were tickling the playoffs for most of this season, and we were tickling underarms and other sensitive areas. Scunthorpe tickled the playoffs, I think, from match day 1, just to cover that. I think Scunny, look, the teams that are in the playoffs deserve to be there. Southend, I mean, by the end, it was just a formality anyway. They stuck 6 past us at the Shea. They'd already beaten us, you know what I mean? They were already there, you know what I mean? Forest Green did the double over us. The one team that struggled against us finished second and could have gone up. You were breaking down every team in them playoffs.
Yes, for that, Dave.
Yeah, if we'd have got in there, it'd have been like, well, we lost at Spotland and we got a draw, probably a fair draw, to be honest. We got a fair draw away and we lost at home to this team, but we're not there. We've already had early news that Florent Hotty's been released. And I think that's come about purely by just pure journalism, and I'm all for it. Obviously, being a journalist myself, I'm all for that kind of thing. That's quite clearly just the person that's, well, it's in the Courier. Look, we all know who's broken the story. It's in the Halifax Courier. The Courier's reporter, we all know who it is. It's Tom Scargill. There's no secret there. He's obviously said to Adam Lakeland, or Adam Lakeland's disclosed it to him, that we're releasing Florent Hotty and we're exercising the year's contract extension on Adam A. Toro, Triple A's contract. So we're already getting that early news. I got into it a little bit last week about how the club seems to just shut down every year. There's little seeds been planted. Like, the club's been promoting an end of season awards ceremony, which for any other club in the country is just meet and drink what you do. We've had a few seasons under Pete Wild and Chris Millington where we haven't had an official end of season presentation or awards night that supporters could attend. So that's a massive step in the right direction. I think most of it's been done through the supporters club, but the official site and the official Twitter and what have you has been advertising it. It's on the 1st of May. I can't attend it, unfortunately, but a little bit of news coming out. We're having an end. It's people are extra critical. The club is saying
isn't it?
Yeah, it's going in the right direction. If you're extra critical, like some people are online, you know what online's like. They're like, this is stuff we should just be doing anyway. This is just what a normal club would do, in inverted commas. But Adam Lakeland's been a breath of fresh air this year. Everybody's liked his honesty. He's been pretty straight with everybody. I mean, even announcing these departures already, and he's a pretty straight guy. Obviously, you and Lou have known him from his Farsley Celtic days, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come. Most of our players, unlike in previous seasons, are already under contract. If any players are to leave, there's going to have to be a fee paid. I think I'm repeating myself a lot from last week, because obviously our season was sort of over, really. But yeah, future's bright on that front. It's more the fight off the pitch now that will take, hopefully as well from a personal point of view, will take focus a little bit more.
Yeah, and time will tell with that over the course of the summer. Just before we continue through the non-league, we're just going to bring in our Leeds United man, Jayson Boocker. Evening, Jay. All right, you all right?
All right, mate. How are you? How are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. We'll come to Leeds after we've just finished up the non-league stuff. Not too much, to be fair, to go through being this late stage of the season. From Halifax, we dropped down to the MPL East with guys who are not in action this weekend at all, having finished their season the week before. So into the MPL East, and if I can find the right one, the results from over the course of the weekend. for the sides in our region, at least Gareth Town with a good 4-2 win away at Blythe Town. As you see, Brighouse suffered a heavy defeat to end the season away on the road. We'll come to you, Dave, on that one in a moment or two because I know you were there for that one. Elsewhere, Pontefract Corries, they won away at Dunstan on Saturday, which meant, depending on the result at Park Avenue, which you'll see further down, was all dependent on who would get into that final playoff play. Emily secured, well, already had, but emphatically go into the playoffs in good form off the back of a 6-0 win at home to Newton Aycliffe. They got a win in front of just over 900 at Ossett on Saturday with a 2-1 win for Rev Park Avenue. And finally, Silsden, they were beaten 1-0 by Concert. But despite that, they have survived in the Northern Premier League East. So the final table there, as you can see, Pontefract, despite that win away at Dunstan, which is no easy place to go to, because of the win for Rev Park Avenue at Ossett, sees Avenue pip them to 5th place. So the playoffs, which are on Tuesday night, see Rev Park Avenue away at Matlock, whilst Emily welcome Dunstan. Dave, before we kind of move on and come to Emily, which we'll do a little bit with Downsy as well, obviously you were there at Bridlington for Brigghouse's final game of the season in the NPL East. Obviously, relegation has been confirmed for certainly a couple of weeks at least. Talk us through it, really. Was it as bad as the scoreline suggests?
Yes, it's the short answer. But the day started as it always does in a wonderful clubhouse. Seems like every team at that league, but it was one of the strangest places I've ever been in. Modern. Do you know what? I'm going to use it a little bit sexy. I enjoyed it. Most people there wanted York to win, so when Manny D headed in, I did that little Thierry Henry smirk he does, where you do it with one side of your mouth. Or having a little bit of a laugh at that. But obviously, when York scored, I let out an expletive because by that point, obviously, I've spoke off air about it. I wanted Rochdale to win because it's Chris's team. We'll leave that there.
The team singular.
The
employer. You go with employer, but that's all right.
Part of this clubhouse was right. I was in the corner of the clubhouse. I was in like the little Leeds United section. They had like this Leeds mural up, and I was like, "The fuck." But anyway, I was sat with Don Revy watching York against Rochdale, and they had a picture of it. They had this, honestly, like a mural. I should have took a picture of it, and I didn't because I was enthralled in the game. I was like, "The fuck's this?" I don't know what other words to use. But getting onto the game, I mean, like all strugglers, you know what I mean. The home side got an early goal, and from that point on, it was game over. It was Ahmed. I want to get his last name right. Salam scored a hat-trick in that game. He's second in a week.
He used to be at Hull City, and I think he was at Alfreton as well in the National League North for a while.
Yes. Yeah, his second hat-trick in a week. I'd assume from what I learned at the ground, he may have scored his hat-trick in their equivalent of the West Riding County Cup, the East Riding County Cup. I think Brid won that, and at the end of the game, he also won the Players' Player of the season. So it's obviously not a flash in the pan. First goal was one of them where time and space on the edge of the box. He hit it left-footed, and it just stayed true into the top left-hand corner. And it's been men against boys since I got back involved with Brighouse. But they've had their troubles and stuff, and they've just tried to field the side really. From that point on, there was a few half chances where a low ball goes across, but nobody's really there to attack it. It's just been put into that area, and it was attack versus defence. Salam scored 2 really good goals, a penalty, and then there was 2 goals with literally the last 2 kicks of the game. And the only thing Brighouse can take heart from, I mean, they're already 4-0 down. They kept the score at 4 until the 70th minute. They had a period where they had better spells without really doing anything with it. I mean, I wrote the non-league match report, and it was only 120 words to fit 8 goals in. I'm writing the report for the Brighouse Echo, so I mean, there'll be further details in them. We'll go on the official website if you want to read about it. But yeah, men against boys. Bridlington have finished 8th, which is a great result for them. I believe there was whisperings that there were certain bonuses for the managers should Bridlington finish 8th. There was a big bonus for that, so they've obviously gone out and made absolutely sure. I spoke to Derry Robson and his assistant Andy Houlihan at full time. Just wanted to get a soundbite for that non-league paper report, and they were like, in fact, we didn't cover this. We only took 13 players there. There was 2 substitutes on the bench, and there was an injury to a Brighouse player, Harvey Wood, I think it were, in about the 9th minute. So they had to use one of the 2 subs after 10 minutes. They just fielded the same side for 90 minutes. And they said, that the fact that we've took 13 over today is an absolute testament to the players that have turned up, and they've given everything they could give. And that's it. We are where we are. I think there's a meeting now, or it may have just finished, between the directors at Brighouse Town to decide to try and start and prepare for next season.
Yeah, it needs to be a bit of a fresh start.
It still shows you the standards, doesn't it? Like, obviously you get to a certain level in football, especially as a fan, where you're like, oh, there ain't that much difference between the levels. It still shows you that there is. Like, if you have a drop off even at this level in regional football, Brighouse are nowhere near it.
No.
Like, it's just mind blowing still, really. But I know that they've had a really bad time of it. I know that they've basically been fielding kids, haven't they? So,
but between October and November, Jace, 8 wins and 2 draws in and around the playoffs.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they've only won 8. No, they must have done 7 because they beat Ossett recently, didn't they? But they had a period where they went 9 or 10 games unbeaten. I mean, we're going to get onto it when we discuss the playoffs. We're going to be talking about Matlock and Dunstan, who will be opponents for our West Yorkshire sides. And there's a good reason Matlock are second. I've got a friend who has followed Matlock in the last 2 games. He's over from France. So I've got a little bit of a report on what Park Avenue can expect.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll just touch on this.
40 goals for Redcar, though.
Well, this is the thing. I was just going to reflect on the table overall, and you look at it, 140 goals. Not even just that, though. The fact that they've conceded 38 to finish the season with a goal difference of plus 102 is absolutely staggering. I think I said a few weeks ago that Redcar had something like 4 of the top 5 goal scorers in the league going back a few weeks, and I'm sure they'll have finished up there. As for the West Yorkshire sides, though, Emily, as we say, sitting third, so they host Dunstan in a reverse/repeat, depending on which way you want to look at it, of last season's playoff semi-final. Brad Park Avenue, as mentioned, they pipped Pontefract Collieries into 5th with that win over Ossett, meaning Avenue finished 5th. Pontefract Collieries with a good season, and I'm sure we'll go strong next season as well, finishing 6th. Garforth Town, a very safe and secure 9th place finish for them. And then a little bit further down, Silsden and Ossett just keeping their heads above water to stay up in the Northern Premier League East and avoid the bottom 4, which has got unusually, when we talk quite a lot about the strength of the Northeastern clubs, a heavily Northeastern feel to it, with Bishop Auckland, Blythe Town, and Newton Aycliffe 3 of the bottom 4. As for the NPL playoffs, then, when I get the right slide, there we go. So these aren't in division order, sadly. So just to work through from the top down, you've got Avro versus Lower Breck. That is in the NPL West. Basford United versus Belper Town and Carlton Town versus Racing Club Warwick are in the Northern Premier League Central. Emily versus Dunstan is, of course, from the NPL East. FC United Manchester versus Warrington Rylands and Hensford Town versus Stockton Town are in the NPL Premier. So that's Guiseley's level of the pyramid. And then Matlock versus Avenue is from the East, with Stalybridge Celtic versus Runcorn Linnets in the West. So, as mentioned, Emily versus Dunstan and Matlock versus Bradford Park Avenue. Steve, I'll come to you on this one for Emily.
Can we quickly just mention Avro before we get into it?
Go on, then. Go on.
Avro were pipped. You don't need to bring the graphic up again if you don't want. Avro were pipped to the title by Bury.
They were, yes.
Yeah, they both finished level on points, so you know where I'm going with this, Chris. They both finished level on points, but Avro had an inferior goal difference. They did boost that on Saturday because they won 13-0.
13-0 over Darlaston Town.
Had Bury not won, they'd have leapfrogged them on goal difference that seemed unlikely before. They beat, I don't know who they beat. They beat somebody 13-0.
It was Darlaston Town they beat, but Avro quite literally going out, and when you read the managers, this this is what we need to do. They, to their credit, quite literally did it and had to hope that Bury slipped up, but sadly they didn't. So Bury are up. Yeah, Steve, Emily versus Dunstan. Discuss.
Yeah, well,
Familiar
obviously,
foes.
last season it was the same fixture, except for Emily had to travel up to the northeast in Dunstan. You know, I think it was a long old season last year, and Emily learnt a lot of lessons that they've taken into this season. Dunstan, of course, have been there and done it. You know, the clubs know each other very, very well, actually, and so it's a case of, you know, I think Dunstan were always that one season ahead. But now this time, you know, this season Emily's come up, you know, and sort of worked on a lot of things from last season. They've brought in quite a number of new players. The likes of Bailey Thompson's come in, made a difference. Obviously Stacey. Then they've had you know, people at the back like Jack Cowgill, obviously Imperious at the back. It's unfortunate that Declan Lampton has chose to move on. You know, probably the best keeper in the division. But I think, you know, going into this fixture, you know, Richard Tracy, the Emily AFC manager, is very confident. You know, I think he knows the squad that's available to him. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Jack Cowgill is going to be able to make it, so he's going to be a miss. And they were going to check on Bailey Thompson, of course, because he came up with a bit of a head injury in the 6-0 win from the weekend. But apart from that, I think everybody else is pretty available. Myself and Dave are going to the game tomorrow, looking forward to it. They're expecting a big crowd, hopefully 1,000 people going to be up there, which is, you know, absolutely massive. I mean, just think about that. You know, 1,000 people turning up to what is essentially a regional football match in this country is absolutely tremendous. And it's going to be, you know, big, obviously, for the finances. If Emily can pass Dunstan in this round, they of course will go through to the final, which will be on Saturday. If Matlock win, of course, over Bradford, Matlock will be at home. But if you know, I'm kind of hoping it's an Emily Bradford final, because I think that will be amazing for, you know, that'd be amazing for us in West Yorkshire. I think it'd be a cracking game. I think it's kind of, you know, it'd be a nice way to end the season for both teams to get there. But yeah, looking forward to it. I think it'd be really nice if Emily could just do it against Dunstan, just because of the sort of last couple of seasons against them. But yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it would be quite the defeat, obviously, for Rath Park Avenue as well. That game at Matlock is, as we saw from on the table a little bit earlier on,
it's a hard fixture, that. It's a hard
fixture. It is a difficult one. I mean, like I said, my friend attended the 5-0 win against Grimsby Borough for Matlock, and he said Matlock didn't even get out of first gear. They've got a lot of experience in that side. Obviously, with Lou and Chris and all of us, we know what Matlock have been doing this season in terms of the players that play for them and the wages that have been rumoured or confirmed. You know what I mean? Matlock are going to be they finished second. The table
but Emily beat them 4-0 a couple of weeks ago. So
for what it's worth as well, like Avenue have lost a game less than Matlock this season, and Avenue are very good defensively.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be an interesting game.
It's by no means a foregone conclusion. Don't get me wrong. It will be a very, very tough game. It's just one of those where you look at that Matlock squad, though. Any squad at MPL East level that's got the likes of Connor Washington in it and Bruno Andrade is a force to be reckoned with. But to be fair, Avenue, as Jay points out, good defensively, and I think they'll fancy the chances as well. I think they've had the better of Matlock as well over the course of the season. I think they drew the away game and beat them at home, if I'm right in thinking. So
Emily's got a very good record against all the top sides. They've actually done worse against the bottom sides. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting playoff, innit? Like I'm dead excited for it. And the thing about these playoffs, because they're over one game, anything can happen.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Best of luck to Emily and to Rath Park Avenue tomorrow night in their respective semi-finals. Final piece of non-league was one concluded playoff, which was from Saturday in the NCL Division 1, the playoff final between Wordsford Bridge Athletic and Wakefield. A hell of an attendance. Let's be fair, that is a Step 9 game. overall of the full football pyramid. Sorry, it isn't. It's a step 10 game. That's the bottom of the pyramid of a playoff final.
With step 16 on Division 10.
Yeah, steps. Yeah. It's absolutely insane for 1600. But let's be fair. The big talking point is Worcester Bridge doing it over what has been a heavily fancied Wakefield side.
I think Wakefield will just go again, won't they? They seem to be run very, very well. But yeah, it's a shock. It is even though they are the away team, it is something of a shock, that, Chris.
It's successive playoff defeats for Wakefield. I think they're. I think somebody used the phrase last week: "Ever the bridesmaids, never the bride." At Wakefield at the moment, so they will. I'm sure they'll reach and then go again.
Was that held at Worsborough?
Yes.
So, because Wakefield travel really well, don't they? I know that they've got a decent attendance at home.
Yeah, they'll have travelled very well, I imagine, to be fair, in that 1600 crowd. But it just wasn't to be for them on the day, and in and amongst the Worsborough Bridge side as well. And a name familiar to you as well, Dave. I think this ex-guys who left back, and he might have been in a couple of other clubs around. Reese Maynell. I remember him playing for Geyser though back in years ago when I used to. But I think he's in his mid to late 30s now, and part of that Worsborough Bridge side. So, yeah, fair play. And I'm sure that Wakefield will come back stronger next season. Let's move on then from the non-league scene. And Jay, whilst we've got you here, because I know you haven't got too long to spare us tonight, we'll come on to Leeds United. And obviously, you were there. You were down at Wembley yesterday for that FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea. Obviously, it wasn't to be in the end. And I know that you and Brownie did an hour or so earlier on this afternoon. So if Leeds fans, if you haven't seen that as yet, go and check it out on our YouTube channel. But Jay, just talk us through the day, not just the 90 minutes, but the full day overall, because it seemed like you had a good day all the same despite the result.
Yeah, it worked out really, really well for me because me and the missus had already planned to go and have a few days in London. So we were at Harry Potter World on the Thursday, Thor Park on the Friday, and then obviously the game kind of fell on that same weekend.
Living the dream, aren't you? That's all you're doing.
We literally added a night onto the hotel stay and stayed down in Staines upon Thames on Saturday, and took in the local markets, and then went over to Wembley on Sunday. And so it was it was lovely, mate. It's funny because I've been down there a few times now. Obviously, my experience with these kind of games isn't good as it isn't for every Leeds fan as well. But the days are always obviously quite special. You know, going to Wembley is still going to Wembley. It's a big experience. But this one felt a little different because obviously there's not the same level of pressure as you lose a playoff final, you go again in the Championship, right? Like this felt like a celebration, like a party atmosphere in a bit of a different way. And there was obviously a genuine belief from a lot of Leeds fans that we could surprise the odds and go there and win the game. So in the build up to the game, the atmosphere was incredible, way better than any of the playoff experiences that I've had. When me and Brownie went down for the Southampton game, as an example, there was no atmosphere in the ground. It was extremely difficult to create one, we found, and there was a lot of anxiety and trepidation around that game. There was none of that. From the second that Wembley started to fill, the Leeds fans were on it. And it made the day, even though the result wasn't great, somewhat of an experience. And Chelsea, by a stark contrast, it was like they go there every week. They didn't fill out their allocation, which I find unbelievable considering the fact that they're in London. And you didn't hear them outside of the goal. But alas, they got the goal and we didn't. And it's now in our last 5 appearances in them kind of games, a League Cup final in '96 till yesterday, 9 goals conceded, 0 goals scored, and it's an unbelievable hoodoo that we can't seem to shake for whatever reason.
Yeah, we'll come on to this lack of goal scoring at Wembley, this strange hoodoo. In terms of the game itself, though, I mean, kind of reading between the lines from yours and Brownie's messages over the course of the weekend, obviously you were there in Wembley. I know Brownie was watching it, I think, from the O2 Academy in Leeds, where they were putting on a special screening for Leeds fans there. It seemed like a little bit of a game of two halves, to use that cliche, but in terms of the first half where you kind of stood off them, gave them a little bit too much respect and didn't really get at them, Whereas the second half, obviously being that goal down, it seemed like he really caused Chelsea problems and could have found the leveler at times.
Yeah, I think a fair scoreline would have been 1-1, if I'm honest. I thought they were much the better side, but I think a lot of that was down to us. I thought we stood off them way too much. I thought we gave them way too much respect. I thought we were nervous, anxious. I don't think we have a lot of players that have been in that kind of environment before. I said to Brownie earlier on the stream, for a lot of them players, it'll have been the biggest game that they've ever played. And I know that seems crazy saying it about an FA Cup semi-final, but it's true. You know, a lot of them, a lot of the players, they come from a championship or second division background. So, you know, or completely out of the limelight in the same way as playing an FA Cup semi-final in front of nearly 90,000 people with Leeds fans baying for an upset and baying for an FA Cup final for the first since 1973. You know what I mean? There's a lot of pressure for a club like Leeds. So, and you could tell. I thought you could really tell that in the first half. Some of them didn't stand up for it individually. You know, I thought Pascal Stroik had a really poor first half. I thought Outenacker had a really poor first half, and we needed both of them really to stand up. I thought Ethan Ampadu weren't himself in the first half either. That said, Farke made changes at half time, and it did change the game. And it had only taken one moment to make that difference. And before all of that, Brendan Aronson had the best chance that Leeds had at 0-0. So we did create moments. It wasn't like the other examples where we've gone to Wembley and not shown up at all. You know, I find it hard to think of any positives in any of the previous appearances that I've seen. Whereas yesterday, it didn't feel like that. It still felt like we were really trying to get back in the game and creating some decent chances. But we needed more from us key people. Noah Okafor, Calvert-Lewin, Brendan Aronson when he was through on goal to kind of make that happen. So, but it's one of them. Chelsea is still, you know, that squad is £2 billion worth of construction. You know what I mean? Like it's ridiculous the value that squad's been at. Yeah, we find them in bad form at the minute, but they sat the manager going into that game. The pressure's removed, and the players have got a point to prove all of a sudden that it weren't them, and it was Rossini, and that's what we found yesterday. So yeah, the quality difference.
We all said in the build-up that you stood a better chance of winning that game had Liam Rossini still been in charge for it, didn't we?
100%. Yeah, I didn't really want to buy into that too much, but that is a reality. I think when a caretaker manager comes in, they remove any of the difficulties. They kind of they make it simple. You know, they want the players to go out there and just do the job, don't they? They don't try and make it too fancy. And I think that's what McFarlane did. He just put the right players in the right areas of the pitch. You know, you look at the quality of the likes of Neto, and I mean, I thought the midfield three were where the game was won, especially in the first half. Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez, they had a field day when we weren't fully at it. So, and we're saying all that while we still only lost the game 1-0. You know what I mean? After they scored their goal in the 23rd minute, their XG was 0.06 for the rest of the game. It kind of says where we were at them for the rest of it. Yes, they held us at arm's length for large parts, but we still dominated the game. So I'm still choosing to say it as a positive, especially with what we've got coming up, because as me and Brownie said earlier, and I won't go on about it too much tonight, go and watch the stream from earlier. The relegation battle is a swinging. And, you know, a week ago, I was at like 40 points, nobody's catching that. And I still feel like that is the case. But given the fact that we've got to play Tottenham and we've got to play West Ham, I'm slightly nervous given the fact that there's 4 games to go and all of the other 3 won at the weekend. I know Spurs were still terrible, and I still think that they'll struggle to get 40 points, but it's still making me a tiny bit nervous. So I'm drawing on the positives that I can to kind of put them into Friday night.
Go on, Dante.
I've just got some quick points. So first of all, obviously, up the Chelsea, but that's just banter. Second of all, I watched the game. I thought you were the better team overall, to be honest. I wasn't that impressed with Chelsea. I think it was a shame for Leeds that in the first minute Tanaka didn't do very well with that free kick, because he had a long time to think about it, and maybe I don't know whether that didn't help him, to be honest. If they'd got on with it quicker, he might have made more of it. the Aronson chance is absolutely massive in any final. I don't care. Oh, semi-final, sorry. I don't care. That chance he has to be burying that, really. I thought Calvert-Lewin should have scored his header. But I thought, to be honest, I thought Chelsea were let off. I thought they were poor. I got the impression from Chelsea like it wasn't a big game for them. And to be fair, like as much as I banter like about Leeds, I thought the Leeds fans were absolutely tremendous. Like you could tell that coming through the TV. As you said, Jay, Chelsea didn't make a noise. I'm not even that surprised. I know I think you're quite surprised that they didn't sell their allocation. I'm not surprised because they end up going to Chelsea, Wembley quite often. It's in London. I aren't surprised that they haven't sold their allocation because hang on 2 seconds. That day was bigger for Leeds than it was Chelsea. It
look
just
at the game before.
more.
Yeah, so it was the same for Man City, though. You know, Man City didn't sell their allocation.
Exactly the
same. City Southampton won it 70,000.
Yeah,
it was something like that. I know Southampton ended with about 37,000, which they'd sold. It was Man City that were kind of massively down their allocation because I think it's like somebody said over the weekend, like that was Pep's 23rd trip to Wembley with Manchester City. Like they're just used to it.
It's boring though. It is boring. You know,
I get it, and look, I think more it's the geography that makes me scratch my head because I think, well, you know,
it surely does.
Yeah, I mean, they sell more than 33,000 for a home game, right? So like. It just blows my mind. I don't know, but maybe
it wasn't a big game from Jay. That's the impression I got. You know, I think
they'd go and
guys it was.
They'd have gone and watched the semi-final at home, wouldn't they? You know, if it were at Stamford Bridge. So I don't get it, but I understand. I hear you at the same time.
Yeah.
I think you've been very fair, mate. I think I personally think Calvert-Lewin's chance is better than Aronson's. Because even though Aronson should probably do slightly better, I think he puts it in the right. I think Aronson takes one touch too many, and it cuts the angle off a little bit. I think he should take it right earlier. But I still think he puts it into the corner, and Sanchez makes a good save. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not unforgivable, but he makes it so easy for Sanchez to save. If he puts that down into the ground like he so often does, it's a bread and butter chance for him. He should score that 100%. Or he should make Sanchez have to pull off a wonder save to keep that level. So, yeah, I think you're very fair, mate. I think you're right. We started the game really well. If you think we won the ball, we went straight up the other end and Okafor were through, and it were him that got taken down on the edge of the box. After about 30 seconds, it'd have been interesting to see where that had led to if he had not been fouled. So, yeah, look, Chelsea have got big game players. They've got big game players that have got big experience, and they looked very calm in that first half where we looked scared. We looked like we were on edge. We looked like we were nervous. And I think ultimately that's what made the difference in the game.
They were calm, but I thought they were poor. I thought that I didn't think they were. They weren't this amazing, like, top-end Premier League team that has come and just shown up because they've got big players. I personally thought they were poor. I thought if you'd have played in the first half like you did in the second half, you know, you might have got some joy out of it.
I completely agree. I think we let them look better than what they are capable of at the minute. But I still think they knocked it about quite nicely in the first. But like I say, I think it came from us. But I think a lot of that wasn't effort. It was more than settling down and nerves. The second we came out in that second half, Stack and Rodon made a big. I mean, Stack's a big game player. He can bridge that gap. He's one of them that can go and play for at Chelsea. He
won't be at you very long.
I think he'll be here next season, and I think it'll depend on how we progress. The thing is with Anton Stack, he's not 22. He's 26, going 27. So he's now in his actual prime where teams are going to start thinking, I don't really want to take a punt with him because we're not going to get many years out of him after.
It's not quite now or never for him, but it almost is in terms of that big move. If he's going to get it, he needs to get it, as you say, now, because whilst he is entering his prime, to make buying him a sensible decision, I guess. To have him in his prime.
We were out yesterday as well, which is the crazy thing. So.
Going forward for Leeds, then a couple of things to kind of flash up, I guess, is obviously that is where we are. I mean, obviously, off the back of the weekend in which both West Ham and Spurs picked up victories, who the hell saw that coming? And so that's where it kind of leaves things. And obviously, the fixtures are pretty important as well, with Leeds still to play, as you say, Spurs and West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, mate, it's unbelievable that I'm still kind of looking over his shoulders a little bit with 4 games to go on 40 points. You know, the average over the last 10 seasons has been something like 33. The last time somebody went down with a points total of 36 was 9 years ago, and that was the highest in the last 10 years. 36. We'd already be well cut and dried done. You know, there's this kind of 40 points is safety in the Premier League. It's a complete myth. It's not been a thing for years and years and years and years. It's literally a 90s thing, but we still say it.
I mean, I suppose it does guarantee, to be fair. Like, I know it's not that 40 points.
I know what you mean.
It's now 40 points means you are, well, in this case, 15 sort of thing. Like, 40 points now is more of a meaning of being safe than anything, I guess.
I know what you mean. I hear you. I think I've been really resistant to any idea that the record will be broken. You know, the 42 West Ham team of Joe Cole, Michael Carrick, Jermaine Defoe, I think they went down in 2006 with that team, right? I've been really... Wait, 2003?
Yeah. Not that it really matters. We get the point you're making. Sorry, Jason.
Whenever it was, yeah. But I think I've been really resistant to that even being a potential possibility. And I still think it won't be. I still think it'll be south of 40. But like I said, us playing Spurs and West Ham, and I think because Spurs are involved in it at all, makes me worry. But then I still have to remind myself that this is a team that have won 1 game in 16. And they beat Wolves, who are terrible. You know, we beat them 3-0 the week before, and West Ham beat them 4-0 the week before that. So, and Spurs really had to struggle over the line against them, 82nd minute winner. And by all accounts, they didn't play well at all. I didn't watch the game, but from what I've seen, you know, that's the case. So it's just a really, really interesting battle down there. And, you know, if we're in it, there's an argument to say Newcastle are in it as well. So I don't know.
The one massive positive for you, of course, is the Friday night football this week at home to beleaguered, already relegated Burnley that maybe running its course for Scott Parker and talk of a change, probably not before the game on Friday, but certainly in the summer. Should be at Elland Road. And I know that football doesn't quite work like this, but on the face of it, you couldn't ask for a much easier opposition, as the case is, to what should definitely then secure things with another 3 points that takes 43.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way we get relegated on 43. No. Like, there's just no way. So, yeah, I think we go and do the business on Friday night under the lights at Elland Road. We should be okay, but we've had a bit of a sticky thing against Burnley over the last 2 seasons. Last season, we lost to them at home and drew away. This season, we lost to them at Turf Moor, which, you know, as the season's gone on, bear in mind, we both went up last season on 100 points, and we right now are double their points. We were they couldn't separate us last season, yet we have double their points. So really, you know, this should be a bit of a walkover, but I don't know, there's just something about it that I don't like. But we shall see. And then obviously that leads us into massive games against Spurs a week on Monday. As long as we win on Friday, we can turn up there and just do our bit for the Premier League and getting them relegated. But until that point, it's going to be stress.
When you said there's no way you're getting relegated on 43 points, with a wry smile from Gaz as if to say, yeah, but can you imagine if you did?
I was thinking that someone's got to clip that. I was thinking that is gonna be clipped by somebody if it does happen.
They can't. Like, Spurs are on 34 points. And
yeah, it would be asking a hell of a lot somehow, miraculously.
You get 9 points clear of Spurs with 3 to go, don't you, if you win?
Yeah, well, Spurs would then have to play after us in the same weekend, but they play Villa away this weekend. So, yeah, you're right. I just don't believe it. I don't believe... Because it wouldn't only be them Spurs. It'd also be West Ham and Forest. Forest, it'd be a bit more attainable. But Forest fixtures are horrendous. And, you know, then you'd have to say West Ham are going to do it as well, which would include them getting another 8 points, right? Like, I don't believe it's possible.
No, it
Tell
probably
me it's not possible.
it's probably not possible. Probably.
Jay, you're assured of staying up, mate. You're about as assured of staying up as what Lincoln were being promoted about 2 months ago. So.
No, it's not in that realm. It's not in that realm.
It
is. You're a lot safer there than we were going up. A lot safer.
No, it's not. It's not because we play Spurs and West Ham in the last 4.
But you're fine.
If we didn't, I'd agree with you. But we did.
We had to play all the top 6s around us as well.
No.
Jay, all you need to worry about is if DCL is going to be sold in the summer. Just honestly, just don't worry, mate.
Hey, if we get a decent bid and we can reinvest, we're
2 million. 2 million to tank.
It's going to be how many goals are you going to get for England at the World Cup? That's what it's going to be. Let's move on from Leeds. Let's quickly run through League One and then we'll get ourselves wrapped up. Jay, you're welcome to stay for this bit. I suspect.
How long are you going to be?
Yeah,
about 2 minutes on
time. Yeah, like it doesn't take much. I mean, if nothing else, you can relish the fact that you're going to sit here, as I say to Downsy, Steve. You got absolutely taken apart by Mansfield Town on Saturday. How did that happen?
When you're giving me grief about losing in an FA Cup semi-final and that, I mean, you haven't since the game.
Excuse me. I've been very fair tonight. I've been very fair since Saturday, I think, to be honest. I've only said up the Chelsea once. Now twice. So yeah. What do I think to Saturday, Chris?
Yeah.
I mean, Dave's already sworn, so yeah, we were shy, to be honest. The season's over. The players didn't really care. There was about half a stadium in Mansfield fans were loving it, and they didn't really I just can't wait for next week to be over to just start all over again in August. To be absolutely honest, mate, it's just. It meant nothing. It clearly meant nothing to the players. Meant nothing really to the supporters. I mean, it were a battering.
Bit of a shout for Lucas Akins, by the way. Out of prison, ex-Huddersfield player.
No, he's not an ex-Huddersfield player. That's
Murray Wallace as well.
He's from Huddersfield, but I don't think from my knowledge, he's never played for us.
I thought he came through at Town.
He might have come through the academy, but I don't think he ever made a first team appearance.
I sold him a sofa.
You what?
Another goal for Marcus Harness, though.
I sold him a sofa.
You sold him a sofa. Thanks for that.
So just to correct things, Lucas Akins played 5 games for Huddersfield Town, coming through there.
I'm sure they were really memorable. Probably why Jay sold him a sofa, to be honest. Yeah, take the graphic off, Chris. I'm not bothered about that. Don't let me look at it. Please.
I just wanted you to talk us through the goals as they went in and how emotionally you felt over them.
Well, I didn't because I was in Newcastle on a 30th birthday party, to be honest. I didn't even go to the game. So every time we walked in a pub, Mansfield had scored another goal. So that tells you how I felt about it, to be honest. The goals, first goal from what I remember off the highlights is... Joe Lowe gets done by down the wing, gets put in. There's about 3 there's 3 Town players in absolutely no man's land. Mansfield player comes through, waltzes through. Alnwick might as well be a dustbin in net, and taps it in. Second goal. How did second goal go in? Second goal was chipped out to the. Yeah, it was chipped out to the back post. Ballymumba's might as well be in Plymouth. That gets volleyed across, and Murray Wallace, unfortunately, it goes off his. I think it's his thigh, goes in. Then third goal. That's just before half time. Third goal then is an absolute rocket. To be fair, from the Mansfield lad, but nobody closes him down from 20 yards away. It's a great goal, and interestingly enough, in that at half time. They decided to sub our goalkeepers. So I can't remember how you pronounce his name. Taranev. He's coming. Zanev, yeah. So he's come in as third choice keeper. They decide to swap Alnwick and Zanev at half time because that's really an attacking change. and he couldn't save the third man's field goal, to be fair to him. Marcus Harness gets a goal, as Dave rightly says, his 4th goal in 4 games. Really coming into great goal scoring record, just as we're about to finish 10th in the league, or 11th, which we could do on Saturday. And then Mansfield score the 4th in what can only be described as, well, put it this way, right? As I said earlier, me and Jay are playing on a football pitch on Friday. I genuinely think we won't see a worse goal than the Town 4th goal on Friday. And if we do, me and Jay need to hold our heads in our hands, to be honest. So, yeah, loving life. Can't wait for Wimbledon on Saturday. Get smashed up by the Wombles and then into the summer.
Can I genuinely just ask, Downsy, do you feel like there's been a point here where players realise that playoffs were no longer a possibility and they have just kind of sacked it off?
Well, yeah, Saturday, mate. Saturday was the one. We've conceded late goals in the last 3 games, which have taken points off us. So it kind of after the Bolton game, it were done and dusted anyway. Like, it were finished.
Yeah, but I'm not being funny. You're a professional footballer. You still got your pride to play for.
Well, this was the point that Cal and I tried to make on the Town Talk show last night. Obviously, if you want a more in-depth thing than the 2 minutes that I've just given, please go watch it. Yeah, we said that there is pride to play for. They should be playing for the badge. They should be playing for the pride, but it doesn't work like that in football, does it? I think some of these lads know that they're probably not going to be here next year. So they're not that bothered. I mean, if it was me, I would just play the academy kids at Wimbledon. They've got nothing to play for because they're safe. We've got nothing to play for because we can either finish 9th, 10th or 11th. So for me, I'd play as many of the academy kids as possible. And if they get beat 17-0, like, end of the day, it'd be a great experience for them against, decent professional footballers. So
I can't believe what's happened in the League One playoffs. I just can't believe how difficult everybody's tried to find it to gain points over this last few weeks.
I mean, we can use that as the perfect segue, really, to Gaz, I guess. The one man with his side that is inside the playoff places. It was a 1-1 draw against Bolton on Saturday. Gaz, talk us through it, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I said a while ago, I've been saying it for a few weeks now, that our running was tough. We had Plymouth last Tuesday night, who were probably the form team behind Lincoln in the division. And we had a goal disallowed after about 5 minutes, which was a changing point in the game because Plymouth went straight up the other end and scored. We managed to come back and draw that game. And it was a similar story on Saturday. I mean, I will just start by saying on Saturday there were almost 24,000 in at Valley Parade, which is an absolutely fantastic advert for League One football. Bolton sold out their allocation. We obviously
3732.
Yeah, I don't think we quite sold out ours, but it won't have been far off. Both teams fighting for a playoff place. Bolton now secured theirs. They only needed a point. We needed 2. The worry is that we've needed 2 for a while because of what happened at Barnsley 10 days ago, where we could have had it sewn up and obviously chucked it away by conceding in the 96th minute against 10 men, which was unforgivable. And I think that'll be what costs us, if anything, come Saturday at Exeter. The game itself, really, really hard-fought game. The referee tried to let a lot go, which obviously helped. Similar to the Plymouth game where the referee tried to let a lot go as well, which obviously helped us in a way because it stops the away team from killing time and delaying free kicks and things like that when he's letting a lot go. And it made for a good game. I would say if anyone edged it, Bolton probably did. Their 2 wide players, Sissoko and Cozier Dubry, were absolutely fantastic and were a constant threat throughout the afternoon. I've obviously seen a lot of Cozier Dubry, and he has been fantastic all season. Sissoko's on loan from a Dutch side, I think, and I've not seen a lot of him, but he was probably the pick of the 2, to be honest. He gave Aidan Baldwin a torrid time. Now we switched to 4 at the back. We've played 3 at the back for such a long time under Alexander. It was a real shock to see us go 4 at the back, and we pushed Nerfil up to sort of a right-hand-sided midfielder, and and put Baldwin in at right wing back, and Sissoko gave him a torrid time. Like I said, they probably edged it, had the better of the play, but not by much. And you could argue that a draw was probably a fair result. The Bolton goal comes. It's the only time that their lad Kenny, who the centre forward they've got on loan from Celtic, it's the only time he gets free all afternoon, and it's a brilliant. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a brilliant flick into him from Burstow, his strike partner at Bolton, and he turns one way and then turns the other. He's 1-on-1 with Tilt, and Tilt slips, and he bends it in from the edge of the box. It's a great finish. I know he's got a few goals for Bolton since he's been there on loan, and their fans are very keen for him to try and sign him up permanently. And we responded really well. Now, Caden Jackson hadn't got much change at all out of the Bolton centre halves. He was playing a lone furrow up front, as we often do. We play one up front with sort of two attacking midfielders behind him, and he didn't get a lot out of them. But when he got his chance, he took it. And again, it's another really good finish. Bolton don't deal with a free kick. It's sort of the third phase of the free kick. And Jackson takes one touch with his left and puts it on his right and volleys it in from the edge of the box. And he, like I said, 2 great goals. It was just a really, really fantastic advert for League One football. 2 good teams really going at it. 2 teams with a lot to play for. And a good game and probably a fair result at the end of the day.
And this is what it means for the league table with a game to go. Bradford, 3 points clear of Luton Town. It's in your hands, but as you alluded to earlier, you've got to go to Exeter, who currently occupy the final relegation place, and therefore who need a win themselves if they're to have any hope of leapfrogging the likes of Leyton Orient or Peterborough United to stay up.
Yeah, Exeter, obviously, like you said, they need a win. Now, a draw is enough for us to make the playoffs, but they need a win. I just saw a stat today where Exeter I think they've got 1 win in 19 games in the league. Now, that is a stat that should send shivers down Bradford City supporters' spines, because we have a habit of turning up at those occasions and allowing or giving the team the win that they need. Yes, they need to win. We need a point. I think someone put on, one of the lads who writes for Jayson McEwen, friend of the show with the Post website, one of the lads who writes regularly for him has worked out that there's 27 permutations and combinations of results on Saturday, and one of them will see Bradford not make the playoffs. And that would be if both Stevenage and Luton win and we lose. If Stevenage and Luton win and we lose, then we will be out of the playoffs. Any other scenario or results combination of those 3 games, and we will be in.
And as see, just on that though, Stevenage at home to Wigan, so you would certainly back a Stevenage win on that one. It's Luton travelling to Bolton that might be the one to help you escape that 1 in 27 permutation, I suppose.
Well, that's the worry, because Bolton, like, it's how they approach that game, because yes, they are secure in the playoffs. I listened to Stephen Schumacher afterwards. Obviously, Stephen Schumacher used to play for City, so it was interesting listening to his interview after the game on Saturday, and he was talking about, obviously, they want home advantage if they can for the second leg. Now, how much they want that and how much that affects the team selection and their approach to the game on Saturday, I don't know. They can still lose that home advantage if we win and they don't on Saturday. We will obviously leapfrog them in the table, so there is a chance that they won't have home advantage. So Luton are on a good run themselves. I think since they won the Virtue Motors, they've been on a bit of a run under Wiltshire. The fans were on Wiltshire's back not so long ago, and now they seem a bit more united. And they actually scored a late goal themselves on Saturday. I think just after we'd equalised against Bolton, they took the lead against, I think they were playing Barnsley, who'd actually pegged them back to 1 apiece. I think Luton were winning 1-0, Bolton pegged them back, and then Casey Palmer scored for them. Now, the fact that Casey Palmer is even playing for Luton in League One shows the disparity in budgets that we have at that level. Luton are definitely a side that have a far superior budget to us, and we've been up against it in that respect all season. And the fact that I don't think we've been outside the playoffs since the 2nd or the 3rd week of the season. So if we were to drop out on the last day, it'd be an absolute gut wrench. We've just got to go to Exeter and get the job done. We cannot approach the game as if we only need a point. We've got to go to win it, because you start approaching games where you only need a point in a different way and it comes back and bites you. We've got to go down there and play like a team that are in the top 6 and have been in the top 6 all season and make them look like a side that have won 1 in 19. Though obviously it's a sellout down there. They've sold out, we've sold out for a long trip, and it's going to be a nail-biting afternoon, but we've just got to hope that we get the job done.
I think Stevenage and Luton will both win their games, mate. I think it'll all be down to City. It'll be down to what City do or don't do. I just have this feeling that them two are gonna win their games, their respective games. I know Bolton's a difficult trip for Luton, but given their situation, their position, do they really want to finish third? Are they really that bothered? But that gap between Cardiff and Bolton's just crazy over the last few weeks. Like they started by saying that the playoffs, the teams in and around the playoffs, the fact that Plymouth have been able to catch back up, it's crazy.
You've got to chuck in as well, though, the fact that Stockport have a game in hand on Bolton currently. They play Port Vale tomorrow night, so you would expect Stockport to add 3 points, which will put them on to 77. So if Bolton do therefore want that home advantage, and we assume that Stockport win at the weekend when they take on Stockport away at Barnsley, that would mean that Bolton would need to beat Luton to keep hold of 4th and the home second leg in the playoffs. Or if Bolton were to lose and Bradford beat Exeter, then obviously City would then get that home advantage in the second leg by finishing 4th.
Yeah, interesting.
It is interesting. Like I say, as a City fan, you're just nervous when you know that Exeter need to win and we only need a point, and then you chuck on top of that they've won 1 in 19. I listened to Matt Taylor after he's obviously in temporary charge at Exeter in his second spell down there. He's in temporary charge till the end of the season, and I listened to him after their draw at Burton, and he was talking about basically how well they'd played and how they were unfortunate to get pegged back by Burton in that game. So it's going to be a really tough game. Again, I think the atmosphere will be fantastic. It'll be nail-biting because they've sold out and so have we.
You guys suck away from home, guys.
Say again, mate.
And you guys suck away from home.
We do. Well, I have been told to rein my comments in on that because I was told recently that even though our away form's crap, that we're still, if you look at the away form league table, that we're still mid-table. So maybe it's not quite as bad, or that's going to come back and bite me on Saturday, and me saying that.
I mean, possibly, because the other thing you got to factor in as well could well be goal difference, and obviously City's isn't particularly strong in that respect.
Well, that's the only way that Luton can finish above us, because the goal difference is better than us. Like I say, if we don't make it now, we're going to look back on that Barnsley game in particular, just about 10 days ago, where we had it won and somehow let 10 men equalise in the 96th minute. Alexander spoke about it again and said he thought he said that he thought he'd been harsh on the players after the game. I don't think he was. Like, we had enough experienced players on that pitch to not be going looking for a third goal in the 96th minute and getting caught. There was no need to do that. We have enough experienced players in the squad to know that you take the ball to the corner and you get the job done and you make sure you finish in the top 6. And we're now 3 draws on the spin, so we need to go and approach the game on Saturday like we need to win it.
Believe me, mate, there are always if, buts, and maybes that you can look back on over the course of a full season when you get to this stage and think if only we'd have picked up a couple of points here or not thrown away a lead there, etc., and those sort of things when you get to this stage of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we did it at Reading earlier in the season as well. We were 1-0 up in the 90th minute and conceded twice in time added on to lose 2-1. So there's a couple of occasions where we've chucked it away. Maybe like Reading, were obviously had a full complement of players. The Barnsley one's the one that's going to get me. And if I'm in the away end at Exeter on Saturday and we've missed out on the playoffs, then I'm going to be absolutely looking back at that game.
Absolutely.
2-1 City, you'll win.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so thanks, Downsy.
That's Downsy doing the absolute.
He knows. He does it on purpose.
He does. Just because his side's sticking around in stinking League One, that he's just making sure that your side has to as well.
Over
Yeah,
Chelsea.
His missus let it slip a few weeks ago that the thing that's riled him so much this season the most is that we've been above town.
Yeah, she did, didn't she? She did. She let that
I told
slip.
you they were better than you, mate. I told you before a ball was kicked that Bradford would finish above Huddersfield.
JJ, you looking forward to FA Cup final, mate? Anyway, see you later, boys.
I just want to say very quickly, this is not a League One matter, and I know we're going to round up real quick. What a position that we could have in the Championship after tomorrow. So
I've got my tea, Jay. I've got my tea. Come on.
I know, but just super quick because it's super interesting. So Southampton and Ipswich play each other tomorrow in the game in hand. If Southampton beat Ipswich at home, which I expect them to do because Southampton have been flying, that's going to see Southampton on 79, Middlesbrough on 79, Millwall on 80, and Ipswich on 80 with one game to play. So you're going to have 4 teams separated by 1 point going into the last game of the Championship season to go up automatically. I just think it just needs a quick mention because I just think it's super exciting to watch.
Just very quickly, run through that again with that graphic so we can actually see what that means.
That graphic, Southampton play Ipswich at St Mary's tomorrow. If Southampton beat Ipswich, which I expect them to do, Southampton will then go to 79, which will then see Southampton and Middlesbrough both on 79 and Millwall and Ipswich both on 80 going into the last game of the season. So they were separated by 1 point, all 4 going for automatic promotion.
And
look
very
at that
quickly,
run. Look at that run of
the
form
fixtures
Southampton have been on.
Yeah, they've been flying, mate. They've been all. I mean, Southampton, they should be nowhere near it because after 15 games, they were just outside the relegation zone. They've been unbelievable.
Yeah, they've had an unbelievable season, haven't they, since they made the change in manager. Just want to touch on the fixtures then. To put it into a little bit more context into it. So Ipswich are at home to QPR. Let's have a look. Millwall are at home to already relegated Oxford United. Southampton are away at Preston North End. And Middlesbrough are away at Wrexham, who of course themselves need a result to guarantee making the playoffs. So okay. I don't know everyone's doing it at lunchtime on Saturday, but the Championship is going to be, as it often is to be fair, the absolute place to watch.
I will be watching it because that's just fascinating. And I desperately hope Southampton will win tomorrow because it changes the picture. If Southampton don't win tomorrow, then obviously the picture is not going to be quite as exciting. But
very quickly, out of those 4, who would you like to get second? Because for me, I'm going to go with the unpopular choice and say Millwall.
Millwall makes it easy for us to stay up.
I always like somebody new getting a chance in the Prem as well. And I also think that the chances of Millwall replacing West Ham or Spurs is hilarious.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
that is hilarious.
And Dave just couldn't give a shite.
Right.
What are we talking about? Are we on about
exactly. And on that note, let's wrap it up there.
Crossed for City on Saturday, lads. Please keep your fingers crossed for us on Saturday.
They will be, mate. They will be. We'll wrap it up there then. Big thank you to Stephen Downs, Gareth Walker, Dave Foy, and to Jayson Boocker, all for joining us this evening. Don't forget, Town Talk that was last night is on the YouTube channel, as is Jay and Brownie's roundup of Leeds versus Chelsea from yesterday. They were on earlier this afternoon, so you can check that out for a more in-depth review of both of those games. We'll be back next week, no doubt, with another roundup here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. For myself and the lads, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
See ya.